That's my interpretation of church.
Better than mine. Better than mine. Nobody wants to hear what mine is. I would offend everybody, even atheists. I would probably somehow offend.
I went to church a lot as a kid growing up. My grandmother was very into it, so we would always go to church when we were hanging out.
Didn't you tell that story? There's a story you tell on the episode that's gonna replay. With the cracker or whatever. Y'all gotta stick around. If you haven't heard this episode, we're not gonna tell it now. You gotta stick around and listen to this episode that we're replaying for y'all, because that cracker episode is something.
I believe
that story.
So the official term is the Eucharist. You can also call it the host. If you're nasty, you can call it the Jesus. Cracker, I'm sure, comes somewhere along the way, I'm sure. But yes, there was a story about the Eucharist and when I was young and all the reasons
Don't give it away. Don't give it away.
Yeah. Listen, I'm going to tell you right now, church doors are open for most people, not for me. I'm the only one.
I heard that.
It's like the No Homers Club. It's like, you let Lisa have something else in. Well, not me. I don't know. Whatever. Yeah, but no, this is a really fun episode. And we figure as a end of year roundup and just everything else. And with the holidays and everything, it's kind of fun to revisit this and talk about Kurt and the religious aspects and everything like that. He's a character who is kind of an enigma when it comes to his religion and his faith, because there have been so many writers who have kind of tried to push the faith really hard, and then other writers who have kind of like used the faith in his background. I kind of prefer the more faith in the background, like the faith is a part of him, but not all of him. Whereas I know some people really are into the whole him becoming a priest. I don't get it. I don't know why he literally fucked his way through the 80s and then suddenly is like, I'm a priest. Okay, that makes no sense. Yeah, whatever. But yeah, no, this is it's a fun episode, and yeah, you will hear the Jesus story.
Yeah, and with religion in general, it's interesting. There's a lot of different paths people take, right? So like you said, like who does that and then becomes a priest? And I guarantee you there's somebody on this earth at some point that can say, yep, that was me. Like, it's wild, So that's one thing I really love about this episode, is that we all have our different perspectives. But Mason, who guests on this episode, he has his own channel, Comics and Crosses. He always has the coolest insight into things. And even though he does come from a Christian perspective in regards to religion, I think it still helps put a broader lens on things we normally might not think have that big of a lens. So even though we do spend a lot of time talking about Kurt and his religion and priests and not priests and all that stuff, Mason has so many other great insights. So yeah, I had a blast with this episode. We need to have him on again next year.
We totally should. We really, and listen, if you get to the end of this episode and you love it, go check out Comics and Crosses, number 1. Number 2, once you're like, if you finished all that as well, we did another episode with him where we tore apart. Now, this one was really fun because I come from an art history background. Mason, of course, with his religious background, we tore apart the Mark Brooks cover from Immortal X-Men, which was a send-up of the Leonardo da Vinci painting of the Last Supper. So there's a whole episode we did with him.
Yes, and by
that.
By tore apart, we don't mean that negatively. Like, we ripped apart. No. We mean it as in, like, we overanalyzed the hell out of it, which was a ton of fun.
Yeah, we went through it. Actually, you know what we should do? We should actually do, like, what's the word when you like a postmortem at the end of Immortal X-Men, like when they get to the end of that whole. We should do that and like look at what we gleaned from that cover and how much
and what actually came true. Yeah, that would be interesting.
Because a big part of it was, oh my god, a big part that we talked about in that episode was about Magneto and the Phoenix and being a big part of it, and Magneto leaves right away. Remember,
well, he's now.
Oh, yes, and he was in the Jesus. He was in the Jesus seat. He was in the Jesus seat. Girl, okay. Well, okay.
You got a preview for, not only do you have a little intro for this great episode you're going to listen to, you've also got a preview for our 2023. Get ready. At some point, yes. We're going to look back at that, and I'm sure Mason will be more than thrilled to come back. If anybody else wants to come analyze it with us, let us know.
Yeah, and for those of you listening, like we talked about this last week, we are so grateful for everybody. We look at the numbers every week, and we see those of you who are tuning in every single week to listen to us. We love you so much. Let your voice be heard. Tell us that you're listening. Tell us that you hear us. We're having such a blast, and it doesn't matter who you are. If you want to talk about Nightcrawler, or if you want to talk about anything Nightcrawler related, if you want to talk about a freaking Danish you had in Germany, trust me, we'll make it work because Nightcrawler is German. It's, you know,
that's Lisa's mutant superpower. She can connect everything to Kurt. Everything.
Yes, and now that Kevin Bacon was in the new Guardian, like, first of all, Kevin Bacon was in an X-Men movie, so then everything now is related to Nightcrawler, so I can do 6 degrees of anything. So we can make it happen. And he was also in the Guardians of the Galaxy special, which if you haven't watched it, is so fucking cute. It was super cute. I watched it. It was very cute.
Yeah, it is cute.
Okay, Lauren might have different views. I don't know, but...
That's a whole other thing. I talked about it on my other YouTube channel I do for the indie comics. But it is very cute. It has all the elements of a holiday special that you want, especially a Christmas special. You know, that's the thing. It's very much more Christmas than everything holiday, I think.
Oh yeah, no, it's a Christmas special, 100%. It's not very inclusive at all. It's meant to be a Christmas special. But yeah, what I appreciated about it was like it's like we're kind of going back to that 1960s like Christmas specials and all that kind of, holiday, like, yeah, we should be more inclusive and bring in other holidays, obviously, but it's kind of fun to go back to that stuff with these big properties and everything. And it's interesting to think about, like, Quentin Tarantino recently was talking about, like, the death of the big Hollywood movie star. And it's like, well, you know, I don't mind the death of the big Hollywood movie star because you can't afford to have these big Hollywood movie stars do things like that. So I'd prefer what we're moving towards. But anyway, that's besides the point, everybody. You know, we are so excited that to have you listen to this fantastic episode. And yeah, we look forward to everything that's going to come in 2023. So thank you guys for listening again to our podcast. And yeah, we look forward to many, many more years.
You know who else loves a bargain? Mystique. That's who you sound like right now.
That's true. Listen, she might also baptize any children she has if she saw that. Welcome to Simply Amazing. Welcome back, everybody. This is Lisa, aka the OG Nocturne. Welcome you to another fantastic show with an unbelievable guest that we are super, super excited. But before we get to that guest, I'm going to go ahead and throw it to the co-hostess with the mostess.
I love it. Oh my gosh. Every time you come up with a new way to introduce me, and it's great. Hi guys, I'm your friendly neighborhood by Lauren, and I'm really excited about this guest because I have the pleasure of having another one of my buddies on. This person, I really wanted to come on this episode because he does the coolest YouTube channel where he really delves into religion, particularly Christianity and comic books. And Kurt is one of the biggest characters that's a symbol of religion, I would argue, in comics, particularly in the X-Men world. So I thought he would have a lot of great thoughts to share. So my good friend Mason from Comics and Crosses on YouTube, he is joining us today. What's up, Mason?
What is up? I am happy to be here. Happy to talk about Nightcrawler. Yes, Mr. Kurt Wagner. So
yeah, awesome. Kurt Wagner. Have to give it the German. I mean,
I wanted to pronounce that I was not German. You know, like make it clear that I am nowhere near the top. I am
fair, very fair.
Ill-equipped to comment on his German side, but I will do my best to comment somewhat on his Christian side.
Excellent. Perfect.
Before we get into the main discussion, can you tell people about your channel real quick and what you do? Because I love the tagline you have for your channel.
Oh, yeah. Well, you know, as I put it, I like to talk about the eternal truths behind our modern mythology. My channel is Comics and Crosses. And so I use comics and the themes and the different stories that are told in comics to talk about biblical and Christian type themes and ideas that come through. And so as I was telling you ladies before we got started here, it's actually more universal than it would sound. It kind of sounds like a niche thing, but I find that what I'm trying to do is talk about just how big and how significant these stories are in comic books, like these characters, these themes, these stories. And I'm making the point that they literally are of biblical proportions, and that there's a reason that people are drawn to them, and why, follow characters literally over decades. So so my channel does that. I do what I call Christian perspective reviews. I do one shots on different subjects, interviews with people. But so I would encourage you to check it out. Comics and Crosses. You can find me on YouTube or on Instagram or on the Twitters. So whatever you would like.
That's awesome. I think it's great. I think it's we were talking a little bit beforehand, and I was saying that it makes a lot of sense. A lot of the stories that are told in comics are stories that are about morality and about right and wrong and those decisions, which are a lot of the stories that are told in the Bible. But at the same time, the Bible is also a collection of adventures and adventurer stories, which are also comic stories. So a classic Bible story is the story of David and Goliath, which is just your classic. That's Spider-Man. Spider-Man is David, of what I mean, of David and Goliath. Mm-hmm. So, there are so many, like the apocalypse is in the Bible, and that's a classic. How many times has the world ended in comic books, right? Mm-hmm. So it does make so much sense to go through it with that kind of filter. I love that.
Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate it. And I have a video too about comparisons between Spider-Man and Jesus Christ, as well as Superman and Jesus Christ. And I think those are fun, because they are, all these stories are tapping on some of those big time themes that have been around for a long time.
Yeah. I feel like Nightcrawler would be, sorry, go ahead, Lauren.
No, I mean, I think I was going to say what you were about to say, which is at some point, I'm shocked you still haven't done an episode on Kurt. Yes. Like he's literally like a beacon of Christianity, specifically Catholicism, obviously, but like he's that. Yeah. Are you just waiting for like the right moment? Like you got to get all perfect.
Well, no, actually, I talked about Way of X, which was a great series, obviously, in Kurt trying to find the way or the religion which was interesting because, well, he says he wasn't trying to form a mutant religion, but a way of sort of being, and it was, done with him obviously being fully aware of his Catholic faith and of that, but kind of trying to mold something to the people that he was a part of, the mutant nation of Krakoa. So there are a lot of great things, especially that last issue of Way of X was really cool, where he was kind of discovering it, where he actually faced death. Well, spoiler warning, but if you haven't read it yet, but probably if you're following this podcast, you have. But where he faced death himself, which was the big issue, was his view of death because of his Christian background and perspective. And then so himself facing it and finding something pure to stand for and to drive them towards. So anyway, so there's been some touch certainly on Kurt as he's a really neat character in comics. Him, Matt Murdock, having both having faith and I will do more in the future. I think, I hope is he getting his own team now with this new?
He is, yes.
Yeah, Legion of X is the book that he's leading. That's coming out next.
Sweet. Okay, and hopefully Cy Spurrier is doing it because that Way of X was really cool.
To my knowledge, yes. Cy is still attached to the title, to my knowledge.
Well, there you go. There's going to be a lot of great Kurt content coming forward on my channel for sure.
All right, we look forward to it. We can't wait. We're going to hold you to it.
Mm-hmm. Right. I'm waiting for coverage of Legion of X. If you need somebody to come talk about with you, let us know.
That's it,
perfect.
Exactly.
Yeah, you heard it here first, folks.
So what are out of the Kurt stories? You just talked about Way of X a bit, and we can go more into that if you like as well, because I also had a lot of thoughts about that. You and I have talked about that privately, Mason. But what are some other Kurt stories, if you can think of any, that really stick with you in terms of defining him as a character that has faith and things like that?
Yeah, well, I know that in the comics, I forget the storyline, but they had him kind of becoming like a priest and to where now his current state is kind of, he's viewed as almost like priest Kurt or Father Kurt or whatever, kind of in a side sort of way. But the story. the story wasn't super popular, I think, and that sort of thing. But actually, I think I've always been a big movie guy, and so seeing him in X2, like when he was brought to like the big screen, was cool. And they definitely made represented his faith, in a way there, in a way that I think seemed kind of right in that it. Catholics will tell you they carry a lot of guilt. It's kind of, there's Catholic guilt is like a normal, just sort of way of being. And there's reasons for that. I don't know how deep I want to get into it, but I will put out there that I myself am not Catholic. So a lot of people think that Catholic and Christian are two opposite things, but they're not. Catholicism was just the first form of Christianity until there was the split, Protestant Reformation, a little bit of history. And so basically, if you're a Christian, but you're not Catholic, you're a Protestant. So like everything else is, in protest to the Catholic Church. So, so I will put that disclaimer out that I am not a practicing Catholic. However, I know that some of the characteristics unique to Catholics are a constant sense of penance, because they have those confessionals you see in movies. There's a regular practice. And, I would say wherever you land on religion, a lot of people, are not favorable towards it. But I would encourage anyone who's maybe trying to get to know somebody who is religious, or trying to tolerate them, or or trying to have a relationship with them, is consider that a lot of these things, are rooted in something good. Even if they become a little distilled or distorted or flat out bad over the years, the idea of coming regularly and making an account of your wrongs is meant to be a healthy thing, is meant to be a not staying in the wrong very long. And so you really see this in Catholicism, where they have their confessionals, and so Kurt in that movie, it was great, because they said his tattoos were like a representation of every sin that he's had, and he's had many, and so I think that religion was kind of the encasing that his sort of guilt came in. But we do see that a lot with anti-heroes, where they carry this kind of like, I don't really deserve to be the hero. I'm doing what I should because I have to. This is kind of me paying the world back. We see that kind of attitude, and there's a little bit of that, but still, he was still positive. He was still hopeful. And so anyways, that was a like kind of a major, that was probably the first big like Nightcrawler thing before I really got heavy into comics that I saw, and like kind of was like, wow, this is who this character is, and he's really interesting.
Yeah, I mean, like if you think about it, when was in like a comic book movie, a movie based on a comic book, before that, like a crucifix was used in Blade for vampires. You know what I mean? And and then Nightcrawler's praying with one, and you don't see that in comic book movies. So it was definitely different. It was interesting. And I think it's, when you talk about, a lot of people do have a bad taste in their mouth about religion for a lot of different reasons. And you talk about like good representations of religion. And I personally am very conflicted about Nightcrawler in X2, because I feel like so I was raised in a Catholic family. We weren't like super practicing. Like on my father's side, my grandmother was more practicing. Like when we would stay with her, it was like every Sunday we'd have to go to church because we knew we were staying with grandma.
Were you Irish, or?
I'm sorry?
Were you Irish? Is that
no, Italian, German, Cuban, a little bit of Irish. Actually, yes, a little bit of Irish. I'm one of your classic American mutts. I got a little bit of everything. So, but as far as the whole guilt thing, and I just don't like that self harm part of it. I don't like that, because in my experience, growing up again in a Catholic family, like that's never been a part of anything I've ever learned in going to Sunday school, in being like, I had my communion, I was confirmed, I did all the steps, and like never once were they like, by the way, you should draw in your skin, or you should self-flagellate, or nothing. Like, so for me, it was like, that's very like, and again, it's definitely a decision that was made because they needed to do something about his skin, because there were decisions they had to make. I get it. But at the same time, I don't like it. That's my opinion.
Did they I don't recall in the film him saying that the church told him to do that. Did the church tell him to do that? Did I miss that? Or did he choose to do it to himself? Because that's a whole difference, is because you mentioned, Lisa, like how you're like, yeah, the idea that, self-harm in terms of, repentance or whatever with Catholicism. Well, to me, I remember seeing and hearing that as Kurt choosing to do that because that's his choice and how he's representing his faith. It wasn't something that the church told him to do. But I might be wrong.
Yeah, I think it was very minimally explained in the movie, but other than like one line to maybe say I have one for each sin and I have many, like I think is something along the lines of what he said. So it was, and it's kind of like some things in movies when they're translated from comic books, like, oh, the Joker is or is not perma white, and like there's these different things that, kind of are either do get translated or they're made a side joke, or, so sometimes I think they were trying to make him look cool with all the, kind of look of the comics, but didn't really know what to say about it, so that kind of added that.
I think it was part they were trying to make him look cool, part he's furry and they just couldn't do the fur because it's, they couldn't do it. And also I think, now, this is completely unconfirmed, but I'm going to just go ahead and say this. I think at the time, the makeup technology wasn't there, and doing flat blue makeup just didn't look real enough. And so they needed to give texture. That's why Mystique has scales too. Like, you notice all the characters that had weird skin tones had some kind of weird thing too. It wasn't just like flat. So, so I think that it had to do with like what they were able to do with the makeup, and they needed something. It's just a shame that it's stuck. And God, please, MCU, please get rid of it. Go, done.
We're about to get a barrage of more blue mutants. No, I maybe it's a Fox Searchlight thing. I don't know, but at least he was supposed to be blue. At least, I
was gonna say, is that the part that Kurt left out in the Law of Krakoa? Make more quote blue mutants? Like, come on, guys.
Yeah, that was funny, by the way, to make more mutants.
Well, and I'm actually interested to hear your perspective on that. Do you have any thoughts on that in terms of why Kurt as a character would, number one, really say, hey, guys, this needs to be an entire law out? 3 laws, only 3 for their kind as of right now. One of them has to be, you need to reproduce. Why is that so important to him as a character, do you think? And 2, do you think that makes sense for his character?
The only thing, so I think, as I think about it and why it would make sense, like why would he say this, is the only what I think of is that he was standing there at the Council of Krakoa, the Silent Council or whatever, and they had just formed this new world, this new the paradise, basically. The whole idea that, Hickman was doing throughout this was just like paradise. They've made heaven on earth, or have they? And, we're seeing an inferno and stuff, So I think it's kind of that moment of standing there and all creation is made. I think he's picturing like where God has put Adam and Eve in the garden, in the Bible, and basically is saying like to them, be fruitful and multiply, like go out and subdue the earth, like have dominion. And so I think it was kind of just like this picture, like it took him to that moment in his mind of like creation. And he said, well, this is the first thing, right? So yeah, be fruitful and multiply, like make some more mutants. And also then he has the whole, after Wanda, what she had done and the 198 mutants. And so they're, probably trying to come back from that.
I agree with everything you're saying. It's so funny because as you were speaking, I was Googling, because I don't know that much about the Bible, but I was like, is that from Genesis, the be fruitful and multiply? And is that like, was that in during the in the Garden of Eden, because that makes perfect sense. Yeah, they basically created the Garden of Eden, and now it's about going out and multiplying. And I agree too. A lot of what the Krakoa era has been and has become has been like the antithesis of the decimation. So the decimation was taking away, and so then the Krakoa era has to be making more mutants to make up for those that we lost. So, and it's not, and again, it's the decimation isn't just when they lost all these mutants. You can't forget about when they lost all those mutants in Genosha as well. So it's like they just were hit after hit after hit. So yeah, it's time. Take back your world, X-Men.
I think, and looking at like the state of X-Men right now and just where Nightcrawler finds himself, I think it was great that they showed him kind of being unsettled throughout the situation, because just the whole idea of like mankind, even though it's mutant kind. So, and they've done this with the mutants a lot, is have them represent things that are going on in society and culture. And so, but the idea for a Christian of man rising himself up to the level of God basically is always a bad one. We know the term pride comes before the fall, but the real root of that is understanding that the idea that Satan, Lucifer himself, tried to rise up. He was an angel in heaven, tried to rise up and make himself like God, wanted to sort of subdue God, and was cast down for it. So, and then that's where Jesus is a picture of the antithesis. He made himself lowly, came down, was God, but became like a man, and because of that was exalted up as king. So, so in Krakoa, so it's been cool to see Kurt, like hesitant, reserved, uncertain about the practices of this paradise, the things that are happening. Number one, because the mutants trying to make themselves essentially like God. This is something I've talked about on my channel, is should they do it? Should they be resurrecting people? And he has a problem with it because, he believes in afterlife. He believes in a judgment, and here they are, mutant kids getting blown away for fun so they can come back and say they did it. It's I thought I was really glad and that they started touching on it, and then that they gave Way of X. When that story came out, it felt like they were finally addressing some of the real curious questions that we should have been asking from the beginning with the Krakoa era. So it's cool that Kurt, because he had a perspective. I think it's not necessarily that he had to be Christian. If he would have been somebody else with a very distinct worldview, we could have done it. But it was great, for me to see that, because these things that are happening had to be clashing with some sort of perspectives of the meaning of life, the significance of life in particular, and then, the other stuff.
Yeah. Oh, you're just like latching on to so many amazing things. And I will say that one thing that you really, you pointed out beautifully was like Kurt's uncertainty in Way of X. And I want to kind of move it in a different direction though, because, talking about the uncertainty, because I think a lot of his uncertainty had to do with reconciling his religious faith with the actual logic of what was happening. And it's something I think that a lot of people who are very strong in their religious faith have to do with science, and when science tells them that maybe what they have faith in is a little bit different, right? So that's what I saw in the beginning, where it's like he's saying things like, don't do that. And everybody's like, well, why? Like, what do you mean don't die? Like, what difference does it make? And he's like, and he's trying to, and in his mind, he's like, I know this is wrong. But I can't justify it to them because they're right. We can just resurrect ourselves. Life is meaningless. But at the same time, he's like, but I know that's not right. I know that there is meaning. I know that there is value. He just had to find it. It was that like moment of shaken faith that he had, but it was just a matter of him trying to reconcile the two together. I want to bring it back to that idea of science and religion, where science and religion are not mutually exclusive. And I think that too many people think they are, and they can't exist together. And I think that this is a great metaphor for that, where like Kurt doesn't come out of this saying, well, because things are different and I've learned something new, well, I'm no longer a Catholic and I no longer believe that anymore. And he also doesn't come at it saying, well, I'm Catholic and I've always believed it this way, and therefore I whatever's happening is wrong and I'm not even going to entertain it. Like he evolves with it. He stays strong in his faith, but he still evolves with it, and he keeps an open mind, and he learns. And I thought that was a brilliant part of the whole thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm glad that we got the opportunity to see it in Kurt, and that that the themes being touched on in relation to Christianity or faith at all were not, because the thing about, I think every group has their certain little stereotypes and ways that they're going to be represented 99.9% of the time. So to see faith touched on in a way other than hypocrisy in a medium, it is wonderful. Like, because the idea of somebody's faith being challenged is so rich in idea, like, because it happens to everybody, whether you're religious or not. Like, you're going to get into situations where you're like, just the way that you see the world is going to clash. And like you said, it's like, I know this is wrong, but I'm being presented with something that is...
Oh my God. When I found out the Real Housewives are not all actually millionaires, I was like...
Wait, what?
I know. I'm sorry. I don't want to shake your world too.
Oh God. I don't know. I'm going to need a minute.
We're going to have to pause this. Come back, guys. Come back in 10, 15.
No, I don't care, but I did not know that.
Now you've probably forgotten something super important, because now you have that piece of information in your brain. Like, you've forgotten your PIN number for an account.
It's taken one of the top 7 spots. No, yeah. and I agree with both what you said. And I'm one of those people that I wasn't raised religious. And for me, I don't mind that, because my mother grew up Methodist, and she did not like organized church, meaning she still has her faith in God. She still has her faith, but she doesn't like going to church because so many terrible people were at the church she was at, and there were so many bad things that happen in churches. All this stuff. So she didn't like that. And then my dad's a hardcore atheist, so they pretty much just raised me with good morals and do what you can, do the best you can and stuff. And so for me, I didn't grow up like worshiping anything or anyone in that way. So for me, it's harder to, sometimes with Kurt, it frustrates me that he's such a religious character, meaning that people, when they think of Kurt, they go, oh, he's the Catholic one, right? Oh, he's super religious. All he does is he prays and he wants everybody to be the best. He's always perfect. That bothers me, because I don't want... I love that Kurt's religion is a part of him and that's so important to him, but I don't want it to be his defining factor. And so for me, I have conflict with that in his characterization, because on the one hand, I see how important he is to people like you, Mason, and so many others, where his Catholicism, his Christianity, his religion, it means so much that he is written the way he is in that aspect. But on the other hand, I'm like, I don't want him to just be known for that. I want him to be more than that. And so we talked about the X2 thing earlier. For me, that representation bothered me a lot of the time. And even now it does, to an extent, because that representation really put to general audiences, even outside the comics, by the way, he's just super religious, culty kind of guy. And I'm like, no! So it's super refreshing to hear your perspective, and that he is more of that middle character. He's more balanced than both.
Yeah. And he, and even, I think that I know in X2, like that he has that moment with Storm, where she's just has hatred towards, humankind, and is kind of voicing her frustrations and he says, like, how can someone so beautiful be full of so much anger, and she says, like, anger sometimes is the only thing that can save you or help you survive or something. And he says, so can faith, and so that was cool, because, he was communicating to her hope, and then necessity for hope. And I think the big thing with, I think Christianity, I'll just speak for Christianity since that's kind of what I do, but just specifically, gets kind of associated with so many issues or particular kind of controversial ideas that maybe stem out of teachings in the Bible or whatever it may be, or the way that people practice it. But at its heart, I think the main thing that most people miss is that, and you see it in Nightcrawler in these stories, and especially in the way he's being challenged in the Krakoan era, is that Christianity is saying that each life is valuable, that every person has a creator and therefore has significance, like is here on purpose, right? It's not just a whatever. It's not just like a result of a lot of evolution or whatever, or maybe they still are. They're not mutually exclusive, but it's saying that there's value there. And so I think that's the big thing, that it's that he's getting challenged now, and you're getting to see how that bounces off of different scenarios, like, with people dying and resurrecting over and over again. He had a real hard time with that because life is valuable to him. Each life is valuable to him. So I forget why I started on this road, but that is something to be aware of, and just looking at how, that is driving him, and how these different situations bounce off of that well ingrained perspective.
I think you should become a comics pastor, because everything you said there was beautiful. And I was like, so I just need you to go around and like come around on Sundays and like talk about these great comics, and then just remind us we're all valuable, like genuinely. Like that was beautiful.
Well, I
love it.
I have half jokingly called myself the pastor of the panels, but
you should keep that up. That's genius. I love
great.
that.
Pastor of the panels. I love it.
Well, and just a little in my background, I was on a path where, when I was younger, where it looked like I was on a path to ministry, where I would have been a pastor or something like that. But, just, it didn't materialize, didn't work out that way because of some, unfortunately human and hurtful things happening inside of a church, and mental health issues of myself, and so in a way I kind of, my YouTube channel was kind of birthed out of COVID and just being at home and thinking, oh, I'm going to start working on my office, and I'm going to start reaching out to people and just talking on YouTube, and it's almost been like a second chance for me, to kind of share what's meaningful to me, my faith, and the things that I love and like, in a way that's ended up more true to myself than I probably ever would have been if my life would have continued going the way I thought it was going to go when I was younger.
That's amazing. And I love that you were able to connect so much with your YouTube channel, because you said that, you had a bad experience that led to you kind of leaving that path. And so many times, traumatic experiences can make us completely abandon things that we really love. And I like that, that didn't happen here, which is really great. So that's awesome.
Yeah.
It's like you've created your own like online like Church of Comics or something. There's got to be a better name for it. But like,
We'll
that's kind of what it's like.
You could listen. You could become you could get like a mega church, an online mega church. You could be like the Joel Osteen of comic book.
I think you should make like a comic Bible of like just like genuine like good morals and respect and all those things. Like you could totally do that, dude, and you could totally get people into it. Like even just one Sunday a month coming on live, and you're just like, all right, guys, let's do this. Like you'd be so good at it.
I have toyed with the idea of it. I forget. I think I even on one of my videos announced that I was going to be starting a Sunday morning live stream called like, I don't know, the Church of the Panels or
God,
something.
Oh my God. Wait, call it the 616 Club, like the 700 Club.
Yeah. Yeah, I could do that for sure. And but I just, I apologize to anyone on here who has seen my YouTube channel or whatever, that I have been horribly inconsistent because I've just been through a lot of transition during this time where I've been, doing my channel, and I am here in my new office right now. I just moved across the country. I'm in a new state. And so I am setting up my channel, but I have, some things have become more steady with work and all this and that. And so like I am planning on regular recording and videos as soon as I get myself together here, and a lot more content hopefully to come out.
I'm ready.
We're excited. He's going to have some amazing stuff. We know it. And I'm just going to say this. That's amazing. You're going to apologize for all that. I'm going to say this. No apology necessary. Listen, people, there's a pandemic happening. He moved across the country and he's got a job. Be patient.
Yeah.
Come on. You know what I mean?
I just want
like, I just want if you guys want to pay him to do this, then pay him. But
right, there you go. Then you will get timely videos. But until then, exactly. you gotta wait. I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah, and then I'll start getting hate videos. It's funny, any like pastor who's like on YouTube or anything, there will inevitably be like a why this person is a heretic, and like those videos about how much money Joel Osteen has, and like watch, it'll be like that. There'll be videos of why I'm like a money grubbing, like indulgent.
Nah, it's okay. Lisa will be your publicist. As you can tell, she just shoot out everybody.
I'll be your publicist because you'll know I'll be your publicist because I'll make sure you get those videos because that's how you know you made it. You know you made it. You know you made it when they're coming after you. Like, yeah. All publicity is good publicity.
You'll make money off the haters. Like
listen, all publicity is good publicity. Yes.
I'll be your secretary. It'll be like what is that? The Key and Peele sketch where it's like Obama's anger translator.
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
I'll be Obama, yes. And I'll just be your secretary, trying to help you word it properly. And I'll be like, yeah, that sounds good. And then she's gonna be the one being like, all right.
Oh wow, you don't want me talking for you. Oh jeez.
If I can be the Obama of anything, I will have won.
You can. Yes, you can. That's what he would say. Yes, you can.
Sí se puede.
Let's put it this way. It's better that you be the Obama of something than the Nightcrawler of something because Kurt has failed at way more things than Obama has. So
yeah,
I don't know. That's I would like to see this TED Talk. Actually, somebody present every instance. Let's come. I feel like there's more gray areas than we're thinking of there.
I do not have the patience for that. I mean, someone will make it, I'm sure, but I'm just going to throw this out there. An entire evil Catholic church put all their eggs in his basket, and we're like, this guy right here, we're gonna make him the fake pope. And then we're going to reveal him as the fake pope to the world and show them that the Catholicism is a sham and like throw the whole world into peril by destroying the Catholic Church by showing that this demon is the pope, right? Mm. And they were like, they and clearly before you do a scheme like this, you would have done research, right? Well, they decided they could not make him pope because Kurt could not keep his dick in his pants. So basically, he just could not keep his carnal desires under wraps. And so they were like, well, I mean,
make more
guys, we can't. Exactly. And
he was like, starting early.
and my favorite part of the whole story, though, is like, the end goal is to like the dissolution of the Catholic Church and like to destroy the world, basically destroy everything. And they're like, but we can't, but we just can't make this blue guy who fucks Pope though. Like, it's like that's where they draw the line. That's where they draw the line. Oh, Mason's like, I did not know what I was getting into.
I feel like we're kids that like just told our pastor like something that happened like in like high school or college, and pastor's like, I knew I was gonna have to hear it, and I'm trying to act like it's okay, but like
no. Mason's acting like the last priest I went to confession to, and that's why I can't go back to that church.
He was like, this is a bit much. You want to come back on Tuesdays or Thursdays? I don't work on those days.
Yeah. He's like, I just had the guys from Death Row here, and I was good with that. And like, bitch, you're too much for me. Like, you got to come back later. I can't.
A white woman with a rainbow shirt on, too much.
Too much. You're too much for me, bitch.
But it in somewhere in there, you reminded me of actually something I had wanted to talk about with Kurt was something that's very obvious and kind of the first thing you notice about him, which is that he looks like a demon. Although he is this Catholic character, we've been talking about his religion and stuff, and so I thought that was really that's a really cool aspect to him. I mean, as you're actually getting to know the character, I mean, he has this kind of demon out of hell look. I mean, red would have made it really, really obviously blue, but and I just was thinking about, from his perspective, again, that kind of Catholic guilt idea. A lot of times, I would think that for him, he might even feel like I have done something to deserve this, or there's a reason that I'm stricken this way, but I mean, now his character seems very at home with himself and kind of knowing who he is. But it is cool. It's kind of interesting. I love when things are juxtaposed, and kind of the purity of his, his heart or his mission as he sees it internally, versus looking like this demon, this monster, that's, kind of devilish looking guy, is it is kind of cool, and it I think plays well with Christian ideas, with themes that we see in the Bible of even people being converted, like Paul the Apostle, who were sort of least likely kind of candidates, and then also with mutant themes that we see in X-Men, historically, just with people being outsiders, being feared, these mutants being feared and being looked at as the worst kind of things, but doing good and still working to to save people, to do right by people, to do right by mankind, which is one thing that so a side note off of that actually is I did a video with a good friend of mine, David Canham, who writes these very scholarly articles about X-Men and their biblical parallels. So he's kind of like the smart version of me. Like he's like, his articles are great. I'm like, wow, this guy really is like well read and well thought out here in these.
If there's a smart version of you, I don't want to know what I am the version of you.
Yeah, I mean, he's a sharp dude. I mean, very, very, he's a teacher, and so he writes these great articles he publishes online, Silkart and whatever, you can find him. But we were talking about it, and with the Krakoan era mutants, like, one really interesting thing is that they have sort of separated themselves from humanity. I mean, now the X-Men team is starting to get back out there and do stuff, but it has been very weird because it sort of has taken away their humanity because they have separated themselves to paradise, to an island, and that they weren't really trying to save anybody for a while. And it's kind of like, it seemed very bad for their for their development as people, because they didn't seem to care and were just drifting further and further away from being like heroes. So anyway, so that's something also that is going on, right now, and I think is that Kurt is in the middle of.
Oh yeah, for sure. I want to touch on the juxtaposition that you were talking about in the beginning of that, because I think that is really the big thing that draws people to him, is that I don't think there's a character that has as successfully been able to really play that as Nightcrawler, because he's often been called like the heart of the X-Men. He's often been called like the most human character, even though he's the least human looking. And even when he was first introduced, they did play with these ideas of, racism even within mutants, because like Iceman did not take well to Nightcrawler coming around the first time. Like he was it was almost like he was a little racist towards Nightcrawler because Nightcrawler was like physically mutated rather than just a pretty mutant like the rest of them. Yeah. So which gave them these opportunities to play with all these different things. And, he was never intended to be Catholic from the start. It was that, in fact, Dave Cockrum specifically, we've talked about this before, but he was an atheist. And so he really never wanted Kurt to have any faith or any kind of specific religion at all. But, that's once the character is now the intellectual property of Marvel, then it goes on to different writers. And Chris Claremont was going to make him Jewish at one point, but then eventually it ended up Catholic, which again, I feel like there's a story that needs to be told in between, which I know they tried to, and I don't take it as canon because it involves Kurt in cages and as like a freak show, and I don't like that. So, yeah, but like, because he was raised by a Romani sorceress. Like, where's the Catholic come in? You know, like that's where I'm trying to figure it out. Like where's the, I know there's a story that there's a story that came out in like the 2000s where like he runs away and like lives in a church with Father Wagner or whatever. I just hated it. So I just won't accept it. But that's just me.
Yeah, that's I mean that could be an interesting story. I mean, maybe not. Maybe maybe it's a real boring story. Maybe it's just like it just happened one day and but who knows? But yeah, but I mean,
it could be as simple as like the only real book they had like for a long time in the caravan was the Bible, and he just loved reading the Bible because the Bible is, I mean, it's verbose and it's not an easy read, but like there's some adventures in there. And it, like some of the, like when you actually get into it and you get used to the actual reading of it, like it's got some crazy shit in there. Like there's some crazy shit in the Bible.
Well, I guess if he lived with that father or pastor in the church or whatever, well, you know, because and I think a lot of times, you know, when you hear about stories I've heard about families kind of changing their religious affiliation and stuff like that often come down to an act of kindness. I have found that literally, I know my great grandmother, you know, was, you know, her whole family was Catholic and everything, but it came down to the Catholic Church wanted her to pay so much to get the baby baptized or something, her child baptized at the time. And there was a Christian pastor at a nearby church who would let her come and dedicate the baby, you know, her baby. So, and that changed the whole course of, you know, our family, you know, for many generations was that simple thing. And to the other direction too, as well, because my grandfather grew up very poor in Mexico and had a Catholic priest take some food from him, you know, and up until his very last days, he was very staunchly against Christianity and against, you know, the church because of it. So so there could be a story in there for Kurt, you know, with an act of kindness, you know, with something that makes a big enough impression upon him, especially if he was raised in the circus by some sorceress and this and that. And, you know, maybe a father type figure to come in and influence him would really kind of, I think, account for that.
I like that. And I was just thinking when, Lisa, you're talking about that 2000 story Don't Care For, I was like, well, unfortunately, it kind of makes sense because a lot of these stories about finding your faith often tend to be traumatic or come from something really hard or painful. But I like what you're saying, Mason, and it's almost like somebody hasn't thought to do that yet, or for some reason has chosen not to, because that would work perfectly for Kurt. Like, I mean, and that would explain why he's so hopeful all the time still, even though he sees all these terrible things happening. He's had so much terrible happen to him, but he had that one thing, that one act of kindness, or those multiple acts of kindness that really made such an impact that he's like, you know what, I'm going to continue to do all those acts of kindness as well throughout the rest of my life, and I'm going to do it through faith.
I am just reeling over the fact that it was too, like, the Catholic Church was demanding too much money for baptism. That's crazy. And you know what I believe now? I think what happened was, like, the local church in Germany was offering, like, had a coupon and was like, bring in two kids for baptizing, get one free. And Margali was like, oh, I mean, I love a deal. So
this one looks like a little blue devil. Is he still good to go or what?
Yeah, she's like, listen, she's like, I got this blue one. Like, you know, like, can you do? Will you throw in some like communion wine, like on top of it? Like, help me out here, you know? And, you know, like, who doesn't love a bargain? I love a bargain. Come on. Listen,
you know who else loves a bargain? Mystique. That's who you sound like right now.
That's true. Listen, she might also baptize any children she has if she saw that. Listen, if a jug of communion wine was involved too, it's like 2 for 1 baptized, plus you get a jug of communion wine and some wafers. Ho ho, done. Mystique is in. She is done. She is done.
I can tell you from experience that the quality of the wafers is generally not enough to sway.
Oh no,
that's what the wine's for.
Oh yeah. Oh no, the wine's pretty terrible too. It's all awful. It's none of it's that great. I will say that, all right, so everybody just join me in my corner of, I'm going to tell you guys a story of my most traumatic church experience ever. It's funny, though. It's lighthearted, guys, okay? So don't be like, oh, my God, we're about to hear something awful.
I was going to say, somebody
it's lighthearted. It's lighthearted. Yes. So when I was a kid, I was obsessed with the wafers because I don't know why. I just was convinced they were going to be I was convinced they were going to be delicious. I don't know why. I was like, oh, they're going to be so good. I can't wait to have them. And my family made a big deal of it. I was the oldest grandchild on my father's side. So, and that was the side that was really religious. So it was like, oh, I can't wait to have the wafer. And so finally I have my communion and I'm going to have my I'm going to have my wafer. And I decided I'm so grown up now. And they give you the choice of either put it on the tongue or put it in your hand. And I'm like, I'm going to have it put in my tongue. And so I stick my tongue out. I'm like 8 years old. I stick my tongue out and name of the Father. And he puts it on my tongue and I'm like, it falls out of my mouth. It hits the ground. The whole church gasps. And I'm little 8-year-old kid standing up there, crying. Oh my God, I dropped Jesus on the floor.
For those listening who are not aware, I believe in Catholicism, they believe that during the process of communion, the wine and the wafers literally become
it's actually Jesus
blood
yes,
and his flesh.
Yeah. So I dropped Jesus on the floor, and it was one of those things where it's and it's one of those things where it's I don't know what they wanted me to do about it because my mother's looking at me and she's like, don't you dare pick that up and put that in your mouth. You're out of your goddamn mind. How many people have been walking around this church right now? That's not happening. Number one. And I'm trying to remember what I think the priest eventually just gave me one in my hand and was like, go. And I ate it, but let me tell you,
sweetie, run.
Yeah, exactly. Run. He was just like, you got to get the hell out of here before they're getting antsy and they're looking to burn somebody at the stake.
Street. God bless you.
Yeah, exactly. You got to get out of here. So anyway, that was the most traumatic thing that ever happened to me at a church. I dropped Jesus on the floor and was almost burned at the stake as a witch.
This sounds like a movie I would love to see because this is hilarious to me because as somebody who is not religious and is not aware of this at all. So as you're telling this story, the second, Lisa, you were like, oh, and then I dropped the wafer. I saw Mason's eyes because we can see each other filming it. I saw his eyes go wide and I'm just sitting here wait, that's a big deal? And you both are like, oh yeah, she dropped Jesus. And I'm like, it's a wafer. Oh, this is a thing. Got it.
Yeah, no. I dropped the Son of God. The Son of God. Yeah, the Son of God. He gave his life for my sins, and then his body so that I could drop it on the floor. So there you go.
Not the original plan, but yes.
No, he literally was up on that cross, and he's as he's dying, he's tell Lisa it's okay, guys. That's what he said.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
That's what he said. All right, we might be getting sacrilegious or sacrilegious.
No.
God, Mason, well, thank you so much for joining us. I hope you enjoyed.
I did. This was fun. I hope that Nightcrawler fans appreciated our conversation. And
I think they will.
Yeah, I think so.
I didn't expect us to break you, Mason, but I think we broke you a little bit.
Oh, I'm having a good time. I mean, I'm if there's a follow-up video, just let me know. I'd be happy to talk anytime.
Oh, there's always time to talk about Kurt and religion. That please.
We'll have you back, please. We'll have you back. We can have you back to talk about Kurt and his father, the devil, and we can talk about when I went to the principal's office for summoning the devil. That would be so, that's another story.
There's more people. There's more to come.
There's more to come. This is going to start turning into Simply Amazing, aka Lisa's therapy. That's what this is going to happen.
Yeah. Yeah, and free of charge. You guys got to be part of therapy session.
Yes. This is win. That's Mason. Remind everybody where they can find you. Where can they find you? Come bother you, talk to you, everything.
Yeah, please come find me on YouTube. Look up Comics and Crosses. That is my YouTube channel. And also on Instagram at Comics and Crosses. And on Twitter at Comics N Crosses. The letter N, because they give you one less character. So what was I supposed to do?
Yeah, we didn't choose to have one less A in our name on Twitter either. So we get it.
Yeah, we all got to work with what we got, God bless you. So please come find me, and I would love to connect and chat and just share, what I love and hear about what you love.
Oh, wait. You know what we got to do? Mason, do you use Discord at all?
I did for a while, but I have not been on in a while. I used to chat it up with the Comic Burrito people.
Yeah, they're fun. Yeah,
channel.
The Comic Burrito guys. Yeah.
Very active, those guys.
We need to get you in the Nightcrawler Discord. That's what you're missing out on. You're missing out on our official Discord.
Yes,
that's a blast.
Yes, it is. It's a lot of fun. We have a good time in there. We do contests, we do parties, we do
sometimes concerts.
We do concert.
I love winning stuff.
Oh,
so my dream is to win something. Like if I could win something every day, it would do a lot for my self-esteem, and I would feel great. And I just like free stuff. You
are very unique in that. Very few people enjoy free stuff and like to win things. So you are very
unique. I know. It's my mom always told me I'd be special.
Very cute. That's very Millhouse of you. Oh. Well, for those of you listening, thank you so much again. We just love having you here. We love having your ear. It is such a pleasure.
Only one? I prefer if you use both earbuds or a set of headphones or.
Listen,
I'm needy. I like two ears.
Okay. Now broadcasting in surround sound.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm not going to tell you. Yes. I'm not going to tell you how to use your ears, okay, guys? If you are riding a bike and you only have one in, that is totally fine. If you are, I don't care, whatever you're doing, enjoy it, love it, and have a wonderful time with it. Come find us online. We have Simply Amazing Pod is our website. We got a blog. We got lots of fun stuff happening there. You can find our Discord through that. You can find our Twitter, our Instagram. We have a Facebook. We got all kinds of stuff. And like I said, we do contests. We do giveaways. We do concerts. We do lots of stupid stuff. I mean, by the time this comes out, there's probably like 5 other things that we've decided to start doing. Oh, we started making these stupid quizzes now on BuzzFeed. Oh my God.
They're so great.
the most recent one is like, pick your favorite X-Men and I'll give you a Golden Girls moment. I just love the Golden Girls, guys. Give me a break. All right. So yeah, come find us. Lauren, where can they find you?
You can come find me on Twitter at friendlymBHDBI. Come yell at me about Kurt and anything else. It's all good.
Awesome. And for those of you out there, again, if you like us, please rate and review us wherever you listen to us. And of course, follow us everywhere on all the things. And for those of you out there listening, for that poor, sad little girl, boy, whatever you are out there, that just dropped Jesus on the floor, don't worry, because you know what? In 20-something years, 30-something years, you're going to be like a podcast host. So whatever, it all works out. And just don't forget that you are simply amazing.